one of the things that seemed to creep in with the 2.8 patch of the Car 50 was that the flight was being very weird. I couldn't put my finger on it, just something had changed, and like with a lot of stuff, it wasn't in the patch notes. Now, if you flew around with Flight Director, it seemed fine, it seemed normal. But it's like the autopilots weren't maintaining the normal heading, and when you put on the more hardcore modes, like the route mode or hover hold, something was off. But it seemed like not a lot of people were experiencing this. Fortunately, it seems like Shlomo, and then confirmed by Raptor9 on the ED forums, figured it out. And it comes down to this. Here you can see me, I'm flying. There's no turbulence, despite what it may look like, just 4 meters a second wind from the 180 direction. And you can see with just trimming, you'll see it sways left and right the whole time. Now, your heading hold is meant to have an error of 1 degree, so it's not necessarily perfect, but you can see I don't have a steer point active, and it's busy swaying side to side. It's busy shocking around, and it didn't used to do this. And this seems minor in this case, but sometimes it would do this a lot more harshly, which makes it very hard to go hands-free when you need to target and, be a single-seat attack helicopter. And interestingly enough, so what Shlomo figured out is that over here you've got your heading alignment data that gets used by your INU. And the default is, even in this hot start, that it starts in the up position for magnetic heading. Now there's various reasons for why your magnetic compass isn't accurate during acceleration, deceleration, during turns, and various other reasons. It's not actually the best thing. Now that used to not be a problem. Obviously EDF coded something under the hood now, whereby it works a lot better if you switch it down to the middle position for gyroscope. And now you'll see it flies rock solid, slowly goes back to the heading that I had trimmed before, and it's good. It's not exactly perfect, but as I said, the navigation system isn't exactly perfect. But this feels like it did before 2.8, and feels like you're more able to go hands-free. Now this error gets a lot worse if you're also using auto turn and or route mode. Then it would sway around a lot from side to side and not seem to be in control. So this, thankfully, seems to get it back to shape. Now, small other things you need to note. It doesn't always do this. Sometimes it seems to be doing just fine, set on the normal magnetic heading. And other times it needs to be set to gyroscopic. Further, your schwal depicted on the Abris, now especially if you're magnetic heading, it tends to sway around from side to side. You'll see the schwal is actually still pointed and maybe ground track stabilized on whatever you're aiming at, but in the Abris it's swaying from side to side. If you set it to gyroscopic, it should stay still, but it might still not be exactly perfect. So just take note of that. A further thing, the switch, if you set it all the way back down to manual, I don't know if it's trying to align itself up north or what it's doing, but here you can see me at the Abris, and my auto turn is now thinking that I am facing north by facing me away from the coast, or something like that. It's gone completely haywire. And if I now switch back to gyroscopic, it still has that incorrect impression of where I should be going. So the way to fix this is flip it back up to magnetic heading, probably wait for it to stabilize, and then switch it back down to gyroscopic, so that the Abris stabilizes and your flight's just a bit more stable. I don't know if this is an alignment thing. I don't know if they've yet put in the INU drift. That said, yesterday I had a 40-minute long flight, which seemed to be spot on when I changed this to gyroscopic before I started taxiing. So maybe it's better if we set it to gyroscopic sooner rather than later in your flight. Maybe. I haven't figured out all the ins and outs on this yet. But I'd also like ED to come forward with notes about exactly how they've got it and what you should be doing procedurally. There's not much in the ED manual on the switch, what it should be done, or that you should even be touching it during startup. Maybe if you switch it on sooner, maybe the Abris is better aligned. We'll see. Either way, thanks to the smart people in the ED forums for figuring this out. The shock is now... it just flies a lot better. It feels a lot better and like it used to fly. There's a fork. Cheers.